my friends, in defense of the rational use of water, a source of life, on World Water Day is the topic of we will address in our presentation. Our objective is to highlight the importance of water for life on planet Earth, presently how water emerged on our planet, and demonstrate the lack of rationality in the use of water for its various purposes on planet Earth. World Water Day, March 22, a date created by the UN, United Nations, serves to remind us that preserving water is crucial for life on planet as we know it. Everyone knows that water is the source of life. Water is an essential natural resource, whether as a biochemical component of living beings, as a means of life for various plant and animal species, and as a production factor for various final and intermediate consumer goods. Water is a primordial source of life for all plants and is also very important for the lives of animals, as they depend on it for breathing, digestion, and reproduction, as well as for humans. There is no doubt that water is the most important asset for the existence of life on planet Earth. We all know the importance of water for maintaining our bodies. Water is everywhere on Earth, in clothes, in rain, in the oceans, in rivers, and even in our own bodies. And we can easily find it in any of its liquid, solid, or gaseous states. More than 2/3 of human body is made up of water. Our brain is made up of 75% water. Blood is made up of 81%, and the lungs are almost 90%. It's estimated that on average, the human body can survive weeks without food, but most people only stay alive for 2 to 4 days without water. The fact is that about 71% of the Earth's surface is covered in water, which is why we call Earth the blue planet. Many people ask how water appeared on Earth. The original source of water on Earth has been a long-standing mystery. Scientists from different areas of knowledge, physics, chemistry, biology, geophysics, astronomy, among others, have been seeking to answer that question for decades. Research carried out by the São Paulo State University, Guaratinguetá campus, in collaboration with the Federal Technological University of Paraná and the Astrobiology Institute of the North American Space Agency, NASA, develop a computerized model to determine the origin of the water and life on Earth. This research was carried out without repeating. This research was carried out within the scope of the research project Orbital Dynamics of Small Objects, supported by São Paulo State Research Support Foundation, FAPESP. The model was described in an article published in the Astrophysical Journal of the American Astronomical Society and presented on February 24, 2014 at the UK Brazil-Chile Frontiers of Science. The hypothesis studied considers that water on planet Earth would have originated from comets, asteroids, and the solar nebula that collided with Earth. According to this new model, computer simulations indicated that comets contributed at most 30% of the amount of water on planet Earth. Asteroids contributed more than 50%, and a small portion was contribution of the solar nebula, with 20% participation. This considered hypotheses were based on the fact that most astronomers believe that asteroids and comets collided with our early planet and brought water to Earth. This hypothesis suggests that these space rocks, asteroids and comets carried the minerals and frozen water that form them into interplanetary space until they collided with Earth and deposited their contents on our surface. The other hypothesis is that the action of the solar wind flow of charged particles emanating from the sun created water on the surface of tiny dust grains, and these small amounts of water were probably the seeds of future chains providing the rest of Earth water. Regarding the contribution of the solar nebula, it's important to note that the silicate grains, dust from the solar nebula, a cloud of gas and dust in the cosmos directly related to the origin of the solar system, would have encapsulated water molecules during the initial stage of formation of the solar system. This hypothesis, when hydrogen ions strike an atmosphere-less surface, such as an asteroid or a speck of dust in space, they penetrate a few tens of nanometers below the surface of that grain where they can affect the chemical composition of the rock. Over time, hydrogen ions. Over time, hydrogen ions can eject enough oxygen atoms from materials in the rock to create water. The solar wind derived water produced by the early solar system is isotopically light and indicates that grains of fine dust affected by solar particles and entrained into the forming Earth billions of years ago may have been the source of the planet's water. Around 97.5% of the water on our planet is present in the oceans and the seas, in the form of salt water that there is unfit for human consumption and that of most other living beings. Of the remaining 2.5%, which makes up the total existing fresh water, 2/3 is stored in glaciers and polar ice caps. Approximately 0.77% of all water is available for our consumption. Repeating, approximately 0.77% of all water, fresh water, is available for our consumption, being found in the form of rivers, lakes, groundwater, including water present in the soil, atmosphere, humidity, and biota. Worldwide, there is a widespread view that water is an inexhaustible resource. There is, however, a huge mistake, because water resources, although renewable, are limited. It's important to highlight that of all available fresh water, 70% of fresh water is used in irrigation, 24% in industry, and only 80% for domestic use. Around 800 million people do not have access to drink water around the world. 2.5 billion people do not have basic sanitation, and between 3 billion and 4 billion people, which corresponds to half of the world population, do not have access to water on a permanent basis, using water of questionable quality every day, and 11% of the world's population still shares water with animals and riverbeds. According to the World Health Organization, 7 people die every minute in the world from drinking rotten water, and more than 1 billion people still defecate in the open. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, reports that global water demand will increase by 55% by 2050. The forecast is that this year, 2-3 repeating, the forecast is that this year 2.3 billion additional people, more than 40 of the world's population, will not have access to water if adequate measures are not adopted. Humanity currently uses 50% of the planet's fresh water. In 40 years, humanity will use 80%. The geographic distribution of fresh water is uneven. Currently, 1/3 of the world's population lives in regions where it is scarce. The use of unsafe water is responsible for 60% of the world's sick people. Half of the world's rivers are contaminated by sewage, pesticides, and industrial waste. United Nations report on water use confirms that without measures against waste and in favor of sustainable consumption, access to drink water and sanitation will be further reduced. UNICEF reports that every 15 seconds a child dies from diseases related to the lack of drinking water, sanitation, and hygiene conditions in the world. Every year, 3.5 million people die in the world due to problems related to inadequate water supply, lack of sanitation, and the absence of hygiene policies, according to representatives of 28 United Nations organizations, which are part of United Nations Water, UN Water. In the report on the development of water resources, a document that UN Water publishes every 3 years, researchers highlight that almost 10% of diseases recorded around the world could be avoided if governments invested more in access to water, hygiene, and basic sanitation. Diarrheal diseases could be practically eliminated if these efforts were made, especially in developed countries. This type of diseases, generally related to drink contaminated water, kills 1.5 million people annually. Several factors influence the occurrence of diarrhea, such as the availability of drinking water, food poisoning, inadequate hygiene and cleaning of water tanks. Although the amount of water available in the world is constant, the demand, however, is growing due to the increase in population and agricultural production, generating a climate of uncertainty and the possibility of internal conflicts occurring in several countries and also international conflicts. The OECD states that conflicts normally occur within the same country, as the population has different needs in relation to the use of water for agriculture or consumption, for example, and this generates disputes. Water is becoming a source of war due due to international competition for water resources. Many countries build large dams, diverting water from natural river drainage systems to the detriment of others. The main water conflicts in the world today involve Israel, Jordan, and Palestine over the Jordan River, Turkey and Syria, and over the Euphrates River, China and India over the Brahmaputra River, Botswana, Angola and Namibia over the Okavango River, Ethiopia, Uganda, Sudan, and Egypt over the River Nile, and Bangladesh and India over the Ganges River. On the American continent, the conflict between the United States and Mexico over water from the Colorado River has intensified in recent years. A report released by the United Nations on March 20, 2015 informs that if nothing is done, the world water reserves could reduce by 40% by 2030. Also point out that 748 million people on the planet will not have access to sources of drinking water. According to the document, 20% of the world's aquifers are already excessively exploited, which can generate serious consequences such as soil erosion, and the invasion of salt water in these reservoirs. Scientists also predict that by 2050, agriculture and the food industry will need to increase their demand for water by 400% to increase the production. United Nations report released on March 22, 2023 shows that planet Earth is at imminent risk of water scarcity. In the report, the United Nations warns that water scarcity is becoming an endemic problem due to the three factors: pollution, excessive demand, and of course, climate change. Scientists say that 3.5 billion people, that almost half the global population, already face water-stressed conditions during part of the year. At least 2 billion people do not have access to drink water, and up to 3.6 billion people do not have minimum basic sanitation conditions. The report also makes a projection. In cities, the number of people who will face water shortage could reach 2.5 billion by 2050, almost double compared to data from 2016. Those responsible for the study state that only effective management and water care can guarantee resources in the future. Based on the above, based about our explanation, The situation described regarding water in the world tends to worsen given the deficiencies and irrationality in government policies relating to the protection of the natural environment, including springs and water courses, and the poor management of basic sanitation in numerous countries around the world. Furthermore, international conflicts over the use of water will not be properly resolved because there is no international body with sufficient authority to enable their solution. The United Nations would need to be restructured to become a world government to solve this problem that I have defended in several opportunities. Conflicts of water tend to worsen even more with diversification, intensified by climate change resulting from global warming, which is currently worsening throughout the world. Furthermore, on a daily basis, rivers, streams, beds, and aquifers are contaminated by poorly treated sewage systems, the use of pesticides on crops, and the disposal of toxic waste from industries. Therefore, we have nothing to celebrate on World Water Day. We conclude our presentation sending a big hug to everyone who watched this video.